And I don't know, for all the fathers in the room, we want to wish you a happy Father's Day, and thank you for taking time out of your day with your family to spend it with us. So happy Father's Day to all the dads in the room. I want to start by saying I'm Candace Young. I'm the marketing manager at CBF, and I've been working with Mark and Scott, the hooligans who got you guys to come here, along with Erlene and Linda. And when we have meetings about assembly, Chris, who's our assembly director, always wants us to answer the question, what would someone need you for? So for the purposes of this meeting, if you need anything for registration or hospitality, I'm your gal. Along with Chris, along with Mark and Scott, along with Erlene and Linda, we are your support team. We also know a lot about everything else. I was explaining to April about the missions market, so if you have any other questions about assembly, we'll do a little bit of an assembly overview later. This is my 9th assembly. I was explaining earlier, this is the job I got out of college. So this is pretty much all I know. So if you have any questions about it, let me know. I guess Chris, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. My name is Chris. You've seen me downstairs. I've been, a couple of people asked me about where they could get a luggage cart and stuff. You know, you have a name tag on, they think you can help with anything. The same will happen to you at Assembly. We're glad you're here. You will look very official when you start your work with us, and you will get lots of questions. Don't worry, you don't have to know all the answers. We just ask you to have a smiling face and a great disposition and a willingness to learn. We're going to give you a lot of little cheat sheets along the way. You'll have notebooks, you'll have people with you. So you can always kind of ask a friend if you don't know, and that's what we want you to do. But we're glad that all of you are here. This is not my first assembly either. This is a joy for me to be able to do this. For CBF, I have 2 hats. I know many of you probably have multiple hats that you wear, depending on the location you find yourself in. I'm the partnerships manager for CBF. CBF has over 67 partners, both nationally and internationally. Part of my job on a day-to-day basis is to make sure that we're living up to all of those little nice things that we write up about one another. To make sure that we know how to really work together. There's a chair right down there.
Yeah, sorry.
Just right there.
I made it.
The other hat I wear, as Candace was saying, it is my joy and privilege to serve this body to make sure that this event happens each year. So there's a lot of little nuts and bolts that happens, or has to happen. We always say that the assembly is the cast of thousands. And people don't realize it until they sit around the table just like you're doing. When you get to hear like, oh wow, that takes a lot of work to make that happen. Last week, before we left Atlanta, we found ourselves across the street from our building packing a semi with everything that you will see that will be here when you come back. So the way it looks today, those of you who are going to be doing a tour today, and the way it looks when you come back will be very different. When you come back into this space, whenever assembly has begun, we want this to feel and look like assembly. You will feel as if you have entered CBF. For some of our folks, it may be the very first time they've ever come into contact with CBF. They don't know what that is. So you might get those kind of questions. So tell me about CBF. We want you to be able to answer that. Answer what it means for you, what it means for you and your congregation. But we want everyone to walk away with a positive experience. And for many of them, what we hear year and year again is those volunteers. Those people were so happy. Oh my goodness, they were cutting out. They were always laughing. Did you give them special drinks? Why? We realize that many of you have agreed to work longer hours, and we appreciate that. We'll make sure you have the most comfy chair that there possibly is in the space. If you get a chair, for those of you who are going to be walking around and on your feet, wear comfy shoes. We're going to be going through a lot of details today. We don't want to overwhelm you with details, but we just want you to know that this is your time. What I typically say, in addition to what Candace said too, was, what information do you need to know today before you walk out of that door? So before you leave today, that's what we need to make sure that we can do for you, is answer all those questions so that when you leave knowing, okay, that's what they're asking me to do. Okay, I think I can do that, or no, I'm not the person to do that. So
Yes.
Just so that we're all on the same page.
Yes, this is your team. There's no question that don't feel like it's a stupid question. Don't feel like it's silly or you shouldn't ask it. Ask it for the good of the group, ask it in front of the group, but if you want to take one of us aside because you just aren't sure, you don't want to say it out loud, that's totally fine too. We're here for you guys today. So however long it takes for you to be comfortable with what you have to do is how long he and I will be available for you.
Well, as far as assembly goes, we're entering our 25th anniversary. You're here at a very critical moment in our history, so we're glad you're here. It's such a big party, we have to celebrate for 2 years. We're starting here, we're going to finish up in Atlanta next year. Aren't you glad you don't have Atlanta's job? You can put a bow on it. So we know that a lot goes into this, but for assembly, like I said, it is for many people a homecoming. You'll see people who may not see each other any other time during the year except at assembly. So you see people who hug necks and shake hands and have dinner meetings and go for coffee. You know, they're all those things. Come right on in.
Come on in.
Yeah, there's one right around the corner, Mark, the little door just here on the right, back by the elevator. You know the little nooks and crannies of the hotel. You're long enough. Come right on in. They're going to get a cheer for you. But for assembly, last time we were here, we always have a higher number. We're in North Carolina. Something about being here. Last time we were here, which was 3 years ago, our numbers hit around 3,200 people in attendance. We closed pre-registration a few weeks ago, and we were at
1625.
1625.
Which is good for pre-registration.
Yeah, so that means all the people who were awake enough to realize, oh yeah, that's happening, and they pre-registered. Now there are going to be a lot of people who said, oh, I forgot about that, that's this week. I want to show up and do that. And so you're going to have even more people who will be registering on site.
Or people that weren't sure they could come and just found out that their schedule changed and they want to spend that time with us. While it's freed up, so.
Yeah. And so we run the gamut. It's always fun for when we try to describe for folks what CBF is and what General Assembly is. It's kind of all things to all people. For some people, it's this time for them to get together with friends. For some people, it's kind of like a little camp meeting time where you get to hear preachers you may have not heard before, or singers, or inspirational when we do our prayer retreat, those types of things. For some people, they wait to do their shopping all in 1 year. They want to know what have the missionaries made. I brought my coins. I'm ready to go. And so we try to provide that for them. I will say, though, as part of assembly, you never know what you may be asked to do. You never know what may come of assembly. We've had several instances where people, for example, in our finance department, we have folks who work in Atlanta who that's what they do day in and day out. Just like most jobs, they sit in a small, confined space, answer phones, do emails, all those things. Well, we had a lady who was in our finance department. She had been working with us for 20 some odd years. She came to an assembly to work finance. She was taking up offering. And a little lady who she'd been talking to on the phone for years about her contributions, she came to the market and said, do you know Jamie Strong? We said, sure, we know Jamie. Hold on. We picked up the radio. Well, these two ladies met. And they'd been talking to each other for years and years. Never met, never seen a picture of one another. And all of a sudden, they had an instant connection. But that happened because of assembly. They would have not had another opportunity to get together, but assembly brought them together. Now, I had an interesting experience where I got brought together with a woman at assembly. She was not my wife. She was not anyone I'd known. You'll notice several of us, if you're at a hospitality station or registration, you will have a radio will be stationed with you. I'll have one on me. Candace will have one on her. In the event you don't know and your phone a friend next to you can't help you with your answer, or the cheat sheet notebook doesn't help you, you can always call one of us on the radio. It doesn't matter what it is. Call us and we'll respond. Has happened when we were in Fort Worth. I got a call, and the call said something like this: we have a lady who's trapped in the bathrooms. Okay, all right, I'm close. Which bathroom? You know, we're in a convention center. So, all things to all people. So I go over and I knock on the door, and I'm like, and my question is, I'm from South Carolina originally. I live in Georgia. I thought this was a common phrase. The phrase was, are you decent? Well, there was a response that came back, and it was just, help me. And so I said, okay, but are you decent? Well, as I kept listening, this lady was from an Eastern European nation. Her accent was rather strong. So I said, well, we're just going to see what we find. So I went in, and her stall had become locked, and she couldn't get out. So again, I knocked on the door, and I said, I'm here to help. Are you good? Are you decent? And she said, oh, yes. So then I got on my back, and I slid underneath the stall and went, hello, ma'am. Are you having a good time other than this part? So as I looked up, I could see that the latch had disengaged. So I had, I think, a pin with me. So I clicked it and it opened. She was so excited. She said, "Thank you so much." She said, "I'm getting ready to go on as one of the performers. I'm one of the musicians."
Oh, no.
And it called my name and I was stuck in here.
Oh, no.
And so as we left, I had someone else who was on the radio. They said, "We heard they say that they had a lady stuck in a restroom, but then we heard Chris say, 'I'm on it, I got it.'" They said, "We don't want to know what happened. I got it solved." So know that there are lots of things that get solved during assembly. We're not asking you to do all of them, but you never quite know what you may be asked for. We'll say.
Yes. I asked Chris to share that story, one, because it's hysterical. But two, just to say there's no problem we can't solve. Don't feel like you have to be the one to crawl under the stall. You have a team of people who will be your stall crawlers. But you never know what you're going to get, but don't feel like there's not someone behind you that can help you solve that problem. So,
Sure.
Okay, I want to hit some information for all volunteers. I know we've got hospitality in the room and we've got registration in the room. There are a couple of pieces that apply to both groups. So I just want to hit some of these notes for you and then we can do some split training.
Do you have any more of the folders?
Yes, they're in the box out there under the t-shirts. So first of all, thank you not just to the dads who are spending their day here, but to all of you who have agreed to volunteer with us. I hope that you have as much fun as we do as staff here at Assembly. You get to meet a lot of different people. You get to see a lot of different elements of worship and missions mark, a lot of elements of Assembly. You have a little bit of an inside track, which I always think is kind of cool. And so I appreciate you all being here, and I hope that you have a good time while you're here. Just as the constituent experience for those who are here matters to me, it matters to me that you all have a good time too. So the first thing I want to say is when you arrive, Mark and Scott are going to be at a hub, and you will be shown where that is. When hospitality goes on their walk and talk, and then registration, once I show you guys where registration is, I'm going to show you where that hub is. It's down by the Guilford Ballroom. In front of that ballroom are two built-ins. The one on the right will be a hospitality station, and the one on the left will be where Mark and Scott will be stationed. So when you come, check in with them, let them know you're here. They'll give you a volunteer apron to wear so that people can spot you. It just is a very basic that says, "How may I help you?" Assembly volunteer, how may I help you? And so you'll get everything you need. If you aren't quite sure, you don't quite remember where your post is, they'll direct you to that. They also have a locked closet there, so you can put your belongings there. Registration volunteers and hospitality station volunteers, you're welcome. Everybody's always welcome to keep their stuff with them. But if you think you're going to be doing a lot of walking or you just don't want to be encumbered by it, they will have a locked area and they will have the key. So you won't have to try to get someone from the hotel to get it for you. So Mark and Scott will handle that, and it'll be a secure place where they will staff that for you, so you don't have to worry about that. If you haven't pre-registered for Assembly, make sure that you make time to come and do that. If you are the first to register on site, it's still free, it's very quick. You will get your name badge, which will look like this. Everybody gets one of these. You'll get your Assembly guidebook, which is has a schedule. It has worship information, so the order of service for worship and business sessions, all of that stuff, and you'll also get this tote.
Ooh.
And so you want the free stuff.
And in the gussets are the schedules.
In the gussets, there is a schedule, a quick little reminder.
A cheat sheet. See, I told you you have lots of cheat sheets.
So I think you want to make sure that you get that. So come a little bit early and register. If you're the first shift of registration volunteers, just while you're there, register yourself. So that'll be pretty simple, but we want you to have the free stuff, because when you're not volunteering, we want you to be an Assembly attendee. We want you to have all the information that everyone else has and have a good time like everyone else. I want to say that Wednesday night is our big kickoff worship service, and there's a reception afterward. Chris mentioned earlier that we're starting a year-long 25th anniversary celebration, and we're kicking that off with a reception. Chris and I have picked the food, so it's going to be good, not just popcorn and cookies here, people. This is good stuff. So what we want you to do is come to worship if you're able to, come to the reception. You do not have to work or volunteer at this reception. We want you to come and just have a good time. We have a free book that we're giving away that night. It's called CBF at 25, and it's a collection of stories of CBF from our field personnel, from pastors, lay leaders, young Baptists, deacons, who just contributed a story from their CBF experience. And it's free only Wednesday night. So come and grab that. We'll have music and food. So I think it'll be a really good time. And we want you to, I'm going to personally invite you to come and partake in that. We made sure, Mark and Scott and Chris and I made sure that this was not something that anybody would need to work. We want, we wouldn't have any volunteers. We have volunteers from other groups coming to staff that so that you guys can participate in it. Earlier, Chris mentioned that each hospitality station and registration will have a radio, and I just want him to give like a quick tutorial on radio etiquette. There's a lot of us who have radios, and just to make sure that when he goes to the etiquette, just to make sure that we're hearing every request that comes over and that we're able to respond to any of them. If we all approach using the radio the same, I think that will make that a lot easier.
It's a simple thing, but when you're in the heat of the moment, sometimes we forget. So basically, a radio is a radio. It's one of those things, make sure you're pressing the button down on it. It'll click when you press it. You want to call who you want to respond to you. So if I'm talking to Candace, I'll say Chris to Candace. Then Candace responds, go ahead, this is Candace. If you're calling one of us, call us by name and tell us who you are, so we know who we're talking to. The radios are for official use. We had some volunteers a couple years ago. We were back in Texas. These volunteers were in a spot that was way far away, so that was part of my fault. They got bored, so they started talking about recipes and stuff on the radio. What did y'all have? Well, our church hostess does that, but she doesn't put those in there. Well, we all can hear it throughout the whole convention. So we have people who are like, hello? And so we didn't know who it was. Yes. So we were wondering, who is giving recipe? Who is that? So, and if you need to have another conversation that's longer than just a quick response, because typically, like if Candace were to call me or you were to call me, they'll say, what's your 20? Where are you? I'm at registration, so that means I'm on my way, or I'm coming to you, that kind of thing. So we don't need to have a long conversation on the radio. If you do find you need to ask a specific question that will be longer than just a few phrases, ask someone to switch to another channel. The radios are typically always set on channel 1, and so when you check it, you want to make sure that it's on channel 1. And say, for example, you wanted to call one of the other hospitality stations and ask them a specific question of like, what time is your next shift coming in, or where do we want to go for lunch, something like that. You can say, hey, could you switch over to channel 2 or whatever channel you want to. Now that does make the rest of us want to switch over to channel 2. But that does help with those kind of things. So that way, if you need to have a longer conversation without going to the person, you can do it that way.
Just remember to switch it back to channel 1 when you're done.
Yes.
And you will have my cell phone number and Chris's cell phone number and Mark. So in the event that there's a problem with the radio, for whatever reason, you can text us or call us, and we can get right to you for anything. We didn't do this at the beginning, but I do want us to go around the room and just introduce yourselves and say what church you're from, and if you're working registration or hospitality. I think it's important for us to know the names of our teams. So you know Chris and me, and you know Mark. But would you mind being first? And then we'll go this way.
Carolyn Cont, First Baptist Greensboro, and I'm in hospitality.
Lynette Allred, First Baptist of Elon, hospitality.
Bill Mann, First Baptist of Elon, and I do what my wife tells me.
I'm Early Van, First Baptist Elon, and I'm working hospitality.
Am I on hospitality?
Yeah.
And say it,
Earlene is actually our hospitality chair.
She is.
She's headed up the whole hospitality area. So
She has. Thank you so much, Ernie.
April Ryan, First Baptist Church, Elon Hospitality.
I'm Jamie Brown, registration, and I'm from Elon also.
Bobby Roach, First Baptist Elon Hospital.
Mary Roach, First Baptist Elon Hospital.
Dana Naylor, First Baptist Church, Elon Hospitality.
Pat Allison, First Baptist Elon in hospitality.
James Allison, First Baptist Elon Hospitality.
Tony Lewis, First Baptist Greensboro, hospitality and registration.
I don't know if that's a mistake.
no mistake there. No mistake there.
Right.
I'm Warner Ekman, First Baptist Elon Hospitality.
Jan Ekman, First Baptist Elon Hospitality.
June Rash, Lindley Park, Restoration.
Linda Vaughn, Lindley Park Baptist Registration.
And Linda is our registration chairperson. So
Thank you so much.
Carol Polk, Ardmore Baptist in registration.
Gail Adams, First Baptist Greensboro, registration.
Chris Knight, First Baptist Greensboro Hospitality and Registration.
And I'm Sandra Knight, First Greensboro Registration.
And our two over here.
Joy Brandon, First Baptist Greensboro, registration.
And Ken Brandon, First Baptist Greensboro registration.
Thank you all so much. Thank you for going around the room and sharing that so that we can all hear your names. Do you want to do it?
Well, we are going to do some giveaways. Don't get real excited there, but there's only two. But one thing I did want to say before we do that is there's a couple of pieces of information I just want you to see while we're all in the same room together, because we're going to split up in just a little bit. Those of us who are doing hospitality, you're going to take a walk with me. We're going to do a walkabout through the building just for you to get to lay eyes on the building itself. So when you come in for your shift, you may not get to move very much. So we want you to be able to see kind of where the rest of the places are. And when you're sending people places, it's like, oh yeah, I know where that is. So we're going to do that. But before we left, I wanted to show all of you a couple of pieces of information. One, some of you may have seen this. This is the hospitality notebook. So remember I said cheat sheets are all along the way? If you're stationed at a hospitality station, everything you really need to know about the entire event is found in here. Everything from phone numbers to, this is a hotel shuttle bus service, stuff about local Greensboro. Some of this stuff you could have probably written yourself, but more from that. But everything in here from a master schedule to assembly map. So if people want to know, okay, how, you said that, now where is that? That's on the 3rd floor. Well, this escalator only goes to the 2nd floor. No, that's really the 3rd floor. See those confusing things? That's in there. Special events by alphabetical order, so you know, like people say, well, I got a ticket for this event. Where is that, or when is that? Well, all they have to know is the name of it, and you can help them find their way.
Which is different than how it is in your guidebook. So the events, the schedule is chronological, but the special events and the workshops, I did those different. So in the guidebook, they're done chronologically. But if you don't know what time your event is, then if you just ask for it by name, here it's done alphabetically. So however people might process information, chronologically or by name, hopefully between the guidebook and this book, we can help them.
And part of what we try to do with this is we try to take ourselves out of the equation, because honestly, I'm sick and tired of the workshops. I'm sick and tired of the schedule. Because it's like, haven't we already done this?
Yeah.
It seems like we've already done this assembly because we've been working on it all year. And so what we try to do is come back from the standpoint of a constituent, of someone who's coming in for the very first time, very first day, never in this facility at all. What may be helpful? How may they come about looking at the same pieces of information?
And the same thing for volunteers, with you guys not being familiar with the guidebook yet, and when you register you'll get one. Well, how could we make it easy for you to answer the question? So alphabetically is pretty intuitive for people.
Another one, very helpful, was nearby dining options that you have on-site and off-site, because folks will get very tired of Joseph's, which we have here, which is lovely, but if you're here for more than a week and you want other dining options, it's nice to know there are other options.
And Scott did those for us, so he sent me local things, categorize them, so we try to go in and give you the phone number, the email address, the type of cuisine, and how much money that might be. So if you've got somebody who's like, we got a group and we want to go to dinner somewhere. You could just hand them, open the book to this section and let them peruse themselves. You don't have to be, the Zagat guide for the area, but it's in there. But Scott graciously did the entire, Dine Like a Local section for us, so we're very grateful for that.
There are lots of options for workshops, and so workshops are in here also listed alphabetically, off-site events, because just because it's something happening during General Assembly does not necessarily mean it's happening in this facility. Some things are happening at First Greensboro. Some things are happening in Winston-Salem. We have things happening where there are off-site workshop options. So those kinds of things people need to know. And so those are in here. And one of my favorite ones is a notepad. And the notepad is there for several reasons. If you get bored, which you shouldn't, you can doodle. And those would be nice to see. But also, if there are things that you learned during your shift, it's like, that would have been really helpful if somebody had bothered to tell me that. But that kind of thing to put in here so that you can pass that along to whoever may come after you, not only for the person coming to the shift after you, but also for us to have later on to say, as you're thinking about assembly, it may be good to think about this. So that would be a place for you to kind of share that information with us as well.
Yeah, we're always trying to improve that notebook based on feedback from y'all, letting us know the types of questions you get. So it has ended up where it is now based on feedback that we've gotten from previous hospitality volunteers.
Okay. Now we just talked about hospitality. You can just come on through. We also have.
Hi.
Come on. We have a chair that we
come on.
Another chair. During what we say is registration, there are lots of things that are being handed out at registration. If you're actually working registration and you're manning the computer or staffing the computer, yes, there are certain pieces of information you will be handing out. For example, what you will be given there are cards, lanyards, pouches, and stickers. So basically, when they give you your name, they'll come up to you if you're working registration, and they'll hand this to you. It has first name, last name, and email address. And that's what you'll use. Names for those businesses, but I'm just going through real quickly. That's what you'll use to pull up their entry. From that, you'll be able to print their name. Then their name goes on the card. And you just hand this all to them. And then they go to the second phase of registration, which is the bag and the book. And so those are two separate locations, but they're close by. And as we do tours, you'll be able to see that. So there are lots of moving components, but they're pretty easy moving components. And most of our folks are pretty trained to know what to look for and what to ask for. One of the things that we want to make sure we keep in mind during registration is registration, your job is to keep people happy and keep them moving. So you're not really there to be hospitality. You may know this information, and that's great if you want to offer it quickly, but your job is to make sure you keep them moving and send them on down to pick up their bags and send them on over to hospitality so hospitality can do their job. We tried to do that to try to streamline things because what we found in years past were people would get stuck at registration. Well, how are y'all doing? Y'all doing good? So good to see you. Move along. You got people behind you. Need to keep it moving. But do it in a nice way. We're glad you're here. Those of you who signed up for registration, you'll be doing a line expediter. That's just what you're doing. You're smiling at people. Are you good? We're glad you're here. Are you doing okay? Your feet all right? You look good. All right. And you just keep working that line and make sure they're good. So all the cranky people, they won't be cranky after you see them. I hope not. So that's part of your job is to keep everybody happy and keep the line.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, you can get bogged down because this is the first time that a lot of those registrants have been either to assembly or been to this assembly. So they may have 100 questions for registration volunteers. Well, you need to give them whatever your appointed thing is you're passing out, whether it's books and bag, whether it's the lanyard, and then say if they have a question, about a meal event, they want to know about a breakfast, say, let me go ahead and get you this, and then point them to the hospitality station and let hospitality answer those questions so that we can keep funneling that information. Unless they just want to know, do you know what time it is? Well, we can offer what time it is. So if it's something that doesn't disrupt the flow, so we're not trying to be dismissive of their questions, but we are trying to get as many people through registration as possible. So we do have a hospitality station close by. It's the one in front of Guilford. It will be big signage I have on that, so you'll just send them to hospitality for those questions.
Anything else? Yeah, giveaways. So we have two giveaways. Two giveaways, yes. We have more things available in the market if you want to come and shop too.
We do for good stuff shopping.
Yes. So the first one I'd like to give away is the person who arrived first. Who was here first?
April.
April, we are grateful that you were here, even though you thought you couldn't be here yet. We're grateful. You're welcome. How many people have attended one assembly? How many people have attended 2 assemblies? Keep your hands up. How many? 2? How many people have attended 3 assemblies?
Okay, we're
How many?
down to 2 hands.
No? 2 assemblies?
Oh, 3.
3 assemblies? How many been to 3? Okay, how many been to 4? Okay, we got a tie, so I'm gonna have to give one and then owe you one.
Yes.
So which of the 2 of you?
I'll give it to Chris, he's so deserving.
Okay. And I owe you one. You write your memoirs in this, all about your time on the General Assembly Standing Committee. There you go.
Okay, so what we're going to do now is do a split.
Well, before we do that, I want to see if we have any questions. For the good of you, any questions so far?
Any
This bubbled up?
math questions?
No? I think they're in like lunch coma. They're just, you know.
I think that I was right when I said it was time to split.
Did you, I'm trying to remember because I was, give me that, did you tell them where the desk is where they can leave stuff? If
Yes,
okay. Right,
I did.
okay,
And when Chris takes around hospitality and when we get to that portion of registration, I'll make sure that I actually show everybody.
Good.
So if you are doing hospitality, Chris is going to do the walk and talk with you. You may leave your stuff here or you may take it with you. Registration, you'll stay here with me and I'm going to walk you through the screenshot stuff and just how that whole process will go. If you're working both, I would probably say stay at registration, stay with me.
Yeah.
Because of the and then you can, well, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know, but just because there's a little more detail in that discussion. And then you can join their tour or you can just stay with us. And then I will, when we get done with the registration, going through those components, I'll show you the hub where Mark and Scott will be. I'll show you where registration will be. So it's not like you won't get a little bit of a tour at that point. But we will be here, so if you need to leave your stuff, you're welcome to do that. Or you can take it with you. Or if you're familiar with this hotel and you can't stay any longer, you know that you're free to go as well, but I hope that you'll hang with Chris and me for a little bit longer and just tie up some of those loose ends for us. So if you're, do you have anything, Mark?
Yeah, just if anybody is doing both,
yes.
I'm going to go with Chris and record what Chris is talking about while we walk and talk. So if you are doing registration and hospitality, the video will be online by tomorrow, and you can catch the hospitality part online. So if you're working both, stay here, work and for the registration part, and you can catch the hospitality part online. So.
Is there anyone who didn't get a purple folder with stuff in it who needs a purple folder with stuff? For hospitality, I wanted you to I didn't separate the folders. So hospitality is mainly for you guys to have a floor map, so you know where the stations are and you can make notes on it as Chris goes around. And then for registration, there's the floor map plus, or the event map plus the screenshot stuff that we're going to go through, which, believe me, is super simple, but I just want to go through all those scenarios with everybody. They've also brought some ice water over here, so if anybody needs to grab a glass of that, please.
And we can stop at the restrooms again
Yes.
before we start if anyone needs to.
Yeah, if you need to take a restroom break, please.
Yeah.